Welcome to the lecture series on thin film techniques. In this lecture series, we'll be discussing about the various fabrication techniques of thin films. We will also be discussing on the various thickness measurement techniques of thin films. And at the very end of the series, we'll also be discussing some of the applications of thin films in realizing multi-layer optical filters. In this first video, we will learn about the various fabrication techniques of thin films that are shown highlighted. Thin films are very important materials in microelectronics, optoelectronics, and several other technologically important fields. Any coating less than about 1 micrometer can be called a thin film. The material or coating of the thin film should be on a clean surface called the substrate. In other words, a layer of substance having a thickness less than 1 micrometer on a substrate can be called a thin film. If there is no substrate, then it is called a foil. One important observation regarding thin films has been that there are wide differences in the properties of these films as compared to those of the bulk material. Probably, this is the reason for the vast developments in the science and technology of thin films. A thin film can be treated as a two-dimensional specimen because of its third dimension, namely the thickness, is very small compared with the other two dimensions. An ideal film is a homogeneous solid material that is contained between two parallel planes and extended infinitely in two directions. For example, in this figure, the film is shown to be infinitely extended along x and y directions. But the dimension of the thin film is restricted along a third direction. In this case, it is shown to be along the z direction. The dimension along the z direction is known as the film thickness, and it is most commonly indicated by d or t. Its magnitude varies from a limit to d tend to 0. Whereas in real films, the two surfaces may not be exactly parallel even with the best deposition conditions. They are rarely homogeneous and may contain imperfections, impurities, dislocations, grain boundaries, and various other defects. Applications of thin films are very many. Microelectronics and optoelectronics industries utilize different materials in the thin film form. Besides these, other technologically important thin film applications are in the magnetic sensors, gas sensors, anti-reflection coatings, corrosion protection paintings, wear resistance, etc. Fabrication of thin films. Thin films can be fabricated by different methods. The deposition techniques are broadly classified as thermal evaporation in vacuum, which include resistive heating, electron beam gun or laser gun evaporation, etc. from suitable sources, or as chemical vapor deposition, which is commonly known as CVD, by pyrolysis, dissociations, reactions in vapor phase, or by sputtering of cathode materials in the presence of inert or active gases either at low or medium pressures, or by chemical deposition by electrodeposition, anodic oxidization, electrolysis plating, chemical displacement, chemical reaction, etc. This part of the video series is intended to discuss on the various thermal evaporation techniques in detail. We'll first discuss about the thermal evaporation in vacuum. As indicated by the name, this technique is associated with the material evaporation due to thermal energy. And this technique is most commonly used for the deposition of metals, alloys, and also many compounds. In thermal evaporation technique, the material to be coated is heated inside a vacuum chamber until its surface atoms have sufficient energy to leave the surface. What you see in this figure is the instrumentation of the coating technique. We have a vacuum chamber inside of which we will place the evaporant. By suitable technique, we will be providing thermal kinetic energy to the evaporant, which becomes a vapor that will travel inside the vacuum chamber and coat on a substrate that is positioned above the evaporating material. The following phenomena occur during the film deposition. The phase transition of the material from solid or liquid to vapor state, transport of the material from the source to the substrate, and the condensation of vapor material on the substrate. What you see here in blue is the substrate on which we have deposited a thin film. For evaporating a material in a simple vacuum system, a container or a source holder is needed to hold the source material or the evaporant. To avoid the contamination of the film deposited, the container of the source material must have negligible vapor and dissociation pressures at the operating temperature. For most of the cases, 10⁻² torr vapor pressure is enough to produce useful condensation rates. The container material are commonly from refractory family metals and oxides. By refractory family metal, we mean those metals which are extraordinarily resistant to heat and wear. And the choice of the shape of the source container depends on the type of the material that is to be evaporated. When the material gets vaporized, the atoms of the material collide with the surrounding gas atoms in the environment, and a fraction of the atoms will be scattered and randomized in the transfer direction. If L is the mean free path, the probability that the atoms travel a distance d without undergoing a collision is e power minus d divided by L. Let's now try to understand the relation between the mean free path of the atoms and the pressure inside the chamber. For air molecules at 25 degrees C, if the pressure inside the chamber is 10⁻⁴ torr, then the mean free path is found to be 45 cm. As we decrease the pressure inside the chamber to 10⁻⁶ torr, it is found that the mean free path becomes 4500 cm. Therefore, for obtaining good quality films, the pressures should be less than 10⁻⁵ torr in order to ensure straight line paths for the emitted vapor atoms. And in a typical thin film coating unit, the substrate to source distance is between 10 to 50 cm. To calculate the rate of evaporation of the evaporant, we'll make use of the Langmuir expression. According to the Langmuir expression, the rate of evaporation of atoms from a clean surface of unit area in vacuum in units of gram per centimeter per second is Me equal to 5.83 times 10⁻² P times m divided by T, where m is the molecular weight of the vapor material and P is the equilibrium vapor pressure of the evaporant under saturated vapor pressure conditions at temperature T. However, several other factors like shape and geometry of the source or the container and the position of the substrate, condensation coefficient, etc. affect the rate of deposition onto a substrate. The rate of deposition of an evaporant onto a substrate follows the Knudsen cosine law. For that, let us consider a substrate which is placed at a height h from a source. H is also the perpendicular distance from the source to point A. Let us consider another point B, which is at a radial distance r from the source. Then, according to Knudsen cosine law, for the ideal case of deposition from a clean, uniformly emitting source onto a plane receiver, the rate of deposition changes as cos theta divided by r square, where r is the radial distance of the receiver from the source and theta is the angle between the radius vector and the normal to the receiver direction. Similarly, we can mathematically account the deposit distribution from point A to point B. Let d0 be the thickness of the deposit on the substrate vertically above the source at a distance h. Also assume that d is the thickness of the deposit at a horizontal distance x from the vertical line. Then the deposit distribution is given by d over d0 is equal to 1 over 1 plus x divided by h the whole square raised to 3 by 2. The molecules per centimeter square per second that are deposited on a substrate depends on the pressure. As the pressure inside the chamber decreases, we can see that the mean free path of the molecules actually increases. As the mean free path increases, we can see that the collision per second between the molecules actually decreases. And for that reason, the molecules that are deposited on the substrate decreases as pressure increases. There are several important methods of thermal evaporation techniques. Some of them are resistive heating technique, flash evaporation technique, exploding wire technique, electron beam evaporation technique, laser evaporation technique, arc evaporation technique, and radio frequency evaporation technique. From among these, we shall now discuss on the resistive heating technique, electron beam evaporation technique, and laser evaporation technique. As we have already seen, we need to have a source holder inside the vacuum chamber. The various source holders in resistive heating technique include basket heaters, spiral heaters, dimple board, and asymmetrical oven type point source. The basket and the spiral sources are commonly made up of thin tungsten or molybdenum wires. These wires will be having diameters ranging from 0.05 to 0.125 cm. As we see in this figure, the evaporant is placed inside a refractory metal source through which a high electrical current flows. Crucibles of quartz, graphite, alumina, zirconia, and beryllia are used for indirect heating. In the case of spiral heaters, we'll place the source rod inside the heated spiral. The source rod will then evaporate and get deposited on the substrate. The multiple vapor beam source consists of a quartz tube with several holes 1 mm in diameter. This is placed inside the tungsten spiral and then heated to generate the vapors, which will get ultimately deposited onto the substrate above. This figure shows the instrumentation of a dimple board. It is made up of thin flat tungsten, tantalum or molybdenum sheets. Creases, dimples, falls or bends, etc. are formed onto these sheets to hold the evaporant. And these are commonly used when only small quantities of the evaporant are available. An asymmetrical oven type point source is a cavity inside which we will place the evaporant and heat it to release the vapors. In thermal evaporation technique, we will be using multiple beam sources. And the multiple beam sources give a uniform deposit due to the superposition of the different beams. And that is the main advantage of using thermal evaporation to create thin films. At the same time, there are several disadvantages for this technique. The first one is the possibility of chemical reaction between the source, that is the evaporant, with the container. Second one, it is difficult to attain high temperatures for the evaporation of dielectric materials like Al2O3, Ta2O5, TiO2, DaTiO2, etc. Third, the rate of evaporation is too low. Fourth, There is also a chance of dissociation of evaporants and mixture or alloy formation with the container material. And fifth, the uniformity of evaporation is poor. From resistive heating technique, we now move on to electron beam evaporation technique. Electron evaporation method is one of the best methods for the deposition of metals, alloys, refractory metals, etc. at a higher rate. It is now routinely used for the production of metal film resistors and others. In this case, the evaporator is normally kept inside a graphite crucible, which is placed on a water-cooled copper block. The important element of instrumentation is an electron gun which emits accelerated electrons. And these electrons are directed towards the evaporant using a transverse magnetic field. The high energy electron beam emitting from the cathode impinges on the charge, which is at the same potential as the anode. Once the heated electrons strike the source material, they lose their energy very rapidly. The kinetic energy of the electrons is converted into thermal energy, which heats up the source surface. Once temperatures are sufficiently high, vapor will be produced and will be coated onto the surface of the substrate, which is placed directly above to the evaporant. As a result, a fresh surface is exposed every time for further melting and evaporation. Hence, a deposit of more or less of a constant composition is obtained by electron evaporation technique. The temperature attained by the charge at the surface can be as high as about 3000 degrees C or more by this method. Hence, refractory metals such as tungsten, molybdenum, tantalum, etc. can be melted and evaporated by this technique. In the electron beam technique, the source of electron beams are electron guns, and the guns are classified into two categories: the thermionic sources and plasma electron sources. Thermionic sources are those in which electrons are generated thermionically from refractory metal filaments at high temperatures. Whereas in plasma electron sources, the electron beams are extracted from a confined plasma environment. We'll now discuss about some of the thermionic sources that are used for electron evaporation technique. The first one is a self-accelerated electron gun. In this case, the electron beam is finely focused by a negatively biased filament having a conical anode and a magnetic lens. The focal points, about few millimeters in diameter, are used to evaporate the evaporant. Here, the quality of the film can be controlled by changing the parameters to control the electron beam. This method is very useful for fabricating the thin films of refractory materials like niobium, whose evaporating temperature is as high as 3000 degrees C. We have already seen this instrumentation, and this is known as a bend beam technique. In this case, a hot cathode ejects electrons which is bent through a transverse magnetic field and is directed towards the evaporator. In wire loop configuration, we have a hot filament in the shape of a loop. The electron beam coming out of the loop type filament is accelerated directly towards the charge through an appropriate shield, thus concentrating the beam. In the pendant drop configuration, the material to be evaporated is taken in the form of a rod or wire and is placed at the center of a cathode loop. When sufficiently large voltage is applied to the electrodes, the tip of the rod or wire gets melted and evaporation takes place. The vapors condense on the substrate located at the proper area below the source. Here, proper control of electric supply is required to avoid unnecessarily high temperatures. The main disadvantage of this method is the poor focusing. From the electron beam evaporation techniques, we move on to the laser evaporation technique. In all the methods of evaporation that we have seen so far, the energy source of evaporation and the other associated connections are kept inside the vacuum chamber. But in the case of laser technique, the evaporating energy source, the laser and its associated parts are kept outside the vacuum chamber. As you see in this figure, the instrumentation is more or less the same as we have discussed so far. The only difference is the laser source, which is placed outside the bell jar. The laser is focused through the window of the vacuum chamber. The materials vaporized by the laser are coated onto the substrate kept over the evaporating material. In most of the cases, the evaporant is in the form of fine powder. Here, the substrates are kept at a distance of 20 to 50 mm above the crucibles containing the evaporant. The depth of penetration of the laser beam is as small as 100 angstrom. Hence, the evaporation takes place only at the surface of the material. Further, using pulsed laser beams, energy per burst is about 150 joules, lasting for about 2 to 4 milliseconds. Depositions of several thousands of angstroms thickness per burst can be easily achieved, which corresponds to a few million angstroms per second. There are several advantages for the laser evaporation technique. The first one, lasers are clean electromagnetic radiations, so there should be no contamination from the source. Lasers can be focused precisely, hence the evaporation can be confined to the surface of the evaporant alone. Thus, the contamination due to the container material gets reduced. Using laser, materials with high evaporating temperature can be evaporated easily due to the high power density achieved through focusing of the laser beams. The laser and the associated parts of the equipment could be placed far away since the laser beam divergence is small. And multiple sources can be evaporated simultaneously by directing the laser source using external mirrors.